Welcome back to the deep dive, where we take a whole stack of sources and really try to distill them into the nuggets you need to be truly well-informed.
Get right to the core of it.
Exactly. And today we're embarking on, well, a really fascinating exploration into a realm that touches millions, evokes some deep passion.
Definitely.
And according to the insightful material we're diving into today, it's currently grappling with some pretty profound shifts. We're talking about the world of video games.
Yeah, a huge space, constantly evolving.
And for so many of us, our very first gaming experience, it wasn't really about the pixel count or the frame rate, was it?
No, not at all. It was something else entirely.
It was about a feeling, a foundational feeling, that strange, soft pull, like someone whispering, "You don't have to be you right now."
Yeah. Come. Be someone else. Somewhere else. Such a powerful idea.
It's a profound invitation, really.
Exactly. And this wasn't, about negative escapism, like just running away.
No.
As our primary source points out quite eloquently, gaming at its core, its essence, was always about running towards something different.
Something, yeah.
A language beyond words, a space beyond judgment, a sanctuary where you could truly explore possibilities, experiment with identities, and just be.
And in that space, the noise of the outside world just faded away.
It really did. It created this quiet zone.
And that profound quality, that ability to provide a unique sanctuary, that's precisely what made gaming such a powerful space for personal exploration. Maybe even healing for countless players. Think of the sentiment from Hollow Knight, which is captured beautifully. The world is quiet here.
That says it all, doesn't it?
It really does. It describes a place of peace, this quietude that allowed for deep personal engagement, free from the constant, external clamor and expectations that often define our daily lives. That quiet, our source contends, was absolutely essential.
But, well, if the analysis from our core source material is correct, that quiet, it's been profoundly shattered.
Shattered. That's a strong word.
It is. The whispers are indeed louder now, the source says, but they're no longer coming from the magical world within the game itself.
So where are they coming from?
From the outside. Suddenly, this personal sanctuary, this space for unburdened play, it finds itself bombarded with questions that were once completely alien to it.
Like what kind of questions?
Questions like, does your avatar accurately reflect your gender identity? Or why doesn't this NPC use neopronouns? And the ever-present, often pretty emotionally charged query, is this game inclusive enough?
Right. Questions that weren't really part of the equation before, at least not in the same way.
Exactly. They feel external to the core experience for many.
And this leads us directly to the central tension we're going to explore in this deep dive. Our source material articulates this palpable frustration among a significant portion of the gaming community.
You can really feel it in the writing.
Yeah, a simple yet incredibly powerful desire that seemed to cut through all this new noise. Let me play.
Just let me play.
It's a plea, isn't it? Originating from a space that feels like it's being increasingly encroached upon. A kind of quiet rebellion against what's perceived as an ideological imposition.
Indeed. And it's framed not necessarily as being against change itself, but more about feeling a fundamental shift in the very nature of the interactive experience.
How so?
Well, this perspective argues that the organic, sort of emergent qualities of gaming are being replaced by something more engineered, something designed specifically to convey messages rather than simply be a world you explore.
Okay. So our mission today is pretty clear then. We're going to delve into how gaming, a realm once defined by, let's say, pure imaginative freedom and quiet, unburdened exploration.
That sanctuary we talked about.
Exactly. How it has, in the view of our source material, transitioned into what it describes as a political battleground.
Strong framing.
It is. We'll unpack the various ways this shift has apparently occurred, examine the specific examples and trends highlighted in the sources, and explore the far-reaching implications for both the games themselves as creative works and the gamers who inhabit them.
Right. What does it mean for the art and the audience?
Ultimately, we'll look at the consequences when that fundamental desire to just play, to immerse oneself without external pressure, is disrupted. And just to be clear, everything we discuss today will be based squarely on the insights and perspectives provided in our source material.
Offering one compelling lens,
One lens through which to understand these pretty complex dynamics.
The soul of gaming.
Yeah.
Art, not agenda.
All right, let's start by considering games in their maybe purest form. Our source argues pretty strongly that at their core, games are, and perhaps always have been, sacred artistic expressions.
Sacred, interesting word choice.
Yeah, creative works designed to evoke feeling, provide experience,
Yeah.
regardless of whether they're, sprawling, chaotic epics or these quiet, contemplative journeys.
They invite us in?
Right, into new worlds. Not primarily to teach us a lesson,
Yeah.
but to allow us to experience something fundamental.
Yeah.
About existence, maybe, or challenge, or connection.
Absolutely. And think about a game like Journey. It comes up so often in these discussions about games as art.
A classic
It
example.
really is. It's a masterclass in this kind of unadulterated artistic experience. You're traversing these vast golden dunes, often wordless, sometimes alone.
Sometimes with someone else, but you don't know who.
Exactly. Joined by a stranger who remains entirely anonymous. There's no dialogue, no explicit instructions, just this shared movement towards a distant mountain.
And the connection feels real somehow.
Incredibly real. And those profound connections you form with these unknown companions are, in our source's view, so powerful precisely because, and this is the quote, no one told you what to believe.
Okay. No prescribed belief.
It was pure, unspoken communion. An emergent narrative built entirely on shared experience, not on some prescribed ideology handed down.
That's a beautiful way to put it. No manifestos, just shared experience. Are there other examples the source points to that embody this kind of raw artistic purity?
Yeah, another prime example mentioned is the stark beauty of Dark Souls.
Oh, okay. Very different vibe from Journey.
Totally different, but similarly in this core aspect. This is a game where, according to our source, even the act of dying feels poetic.
Poetic? Dying.
Well, yeah, it's a core mechanic, right? But it feeds directly into the game's broader narrative about perseverance, struggle, discovery. You aren't given some tutorial explaining the philosophy of the world or a treatise outlining its themes.
You just figure it out.
Or try to. Exactly.
Huh?
Players learn through being, through failing, through trying again. The source describes it as this raw, unadulterated artistic experience. No manifesto. Just ash and steel and silence.
Ash and steel and silence.
Wow, it's all about immersion, challenge, and that emergent understanding. It's a world that simply is, and you navigate it on its own terms, building your own meaning as you go.
And what's really striking, as our source points out, is how this artistic purity, this unadulterated experience, has allegedly been disrupted, even in the most unexpected places.
Right, not just in the big, complex games.
Take Animal Crossing, for instance. I mean, this is a game built on simplicity, right? On the comforting rhythm of everyday life on a cute little digital island.
Total comfort game for many.
Yeah. You have space for quiet customization, for building your own little haven. Yet the source claims suddenly it was filled with debates on gender-neutral villagers and forced oat dates.
So it shifted.
It went from this serene escape to a point of contention. The source material makes it sound like this quiet personal sanctuary was just unexpectedly invaded by external noise and, well, political demands.
It's an interesting case because it really highlights the tension, doesn't it? On one hand, you could argue expanding character options is positive for inclusivity.
Sure, that makes sense.
But for many players, as our source notes, the feeling was that the game, which was primarily about this relaxed customization and community, was being sort of retrofitted with concepts that felt external to its core design.
Like they didn't quite fit the original vibe.
Exactly. It makes one wonder, as the source implies, can't a digital island just be a home? Can it simply exist as a space for quiet enjoyment without constantly being dragged into these external societal debates?
And that leads directly to a really critical point from our source material. This underlying need for silence in gaming.
Silence, yeah. Not just quiet audio?
No, not literal silence. It's about creating this mental and emotional space where one can heal and wander without ideology.
Wander without ideology. That's interesting.
Yeah. The pure artistic forms of games like Journey and Dark Souls, they provided precisely that kind of silence, a detachment from the complexities, the demands, and often, the political pressures of the real world.
Like a buffer zone.
That silence, this perspective suggests, is actually a profound form of healing and mental restoration. It's about a temporary disengagement from the constant self-definition and external scrutiny we face every day.
And this longing for silence and freedom, it's not just an isolated feeling, according to the source. It reflects a wider desire for the game world to be, self-contained.
Judged on its own merit.
Judged on its own internal logic and artistic merit, yeah. Rather than how well it lines up with external social or political agendas. When the world itself, maybe through its mechanics or its narrative, starts asking you questions that feel like they're pulled straight from today's societal debates.
It pulls you out.
It pulls you right out of that immersion. That's the argument.
Precisely. It's about the freedom to just inhabit a character, to create and embody any hero you can imagine. Like naming your hero Revan in Star Wars. Knights of the Old Republic, maybe.
A classic choice.
And experiencing their journey without external judgment or some prescribed meaning being forced onto you.
Just letting the story unfold.
It's about the simple, profound desire, as the source puts it, to rest inside Skyrim's wind, where the snow doesn't ask my pronouns.
That's a very evocative line.
It really speaks to gaming as this inherently personal, internal experience. A space where you can escape the labels and expectations of the outside world, even just for a little while, and simply be a hero or an adventurer or whatever the game allows.
The focus should be on the experience.
That's what the source contends, yeah. The focus should be on the experience of the game itself, not on meeting external societal criteria or passing some kind of ideological litmus test.
The troubling transformation from organic to engineered identities.
Okay, now let's pivot a bit. Let's talk about how this landscape has, according to our source, transformed in ways that some gamers find, well, troubling.
The shift you mentioned earlier.
Right. Our source points to a time when genuine character representation in games resonated really deeply with players. Why? Because it felt authentic. It emerged organically from the narrative.
It wasn't just stuck on.
Exactly. It highlights Ellie from The Last of Us. Her queerness, the source says, was felt, not forced.
Felt, not forced. That's key.
It wasn't an add-on or a side note. It was an integral part of her, woven into the very fabric of the human stories that the game was telling so masterfully.
It came from the character.
It felt organic, like something that emerged naturally from the narrative and character development. It deepened the character rather than defining her entirely by that one aspect.
Right. And what's fascinating here, according to our source's analysis, is how that organic integration then apparently gave way to something quite different.
Okay, what was the shift?
The material describes a subsequent shift marked by the arrival of patch notes.
Patch notes.
Yeah, and the marketing jargon, the checkbox representation.
Ah, checkbox representation. I think I know what that means.
It signals, the source argues, a profound move away from that nuanced, authentic storytelling where identity is just inextricably linked to character and narrative to a more, well, mechanistic approach.
Mechanistic.
It transitioned from let's tell deeply human stories to something more like let's insert identities like modules.
Like plugging components into a machine.
Exactly. This implies a less artistic, maybe more engineered approach, where identities become features to be slotted in rather than elements that emerge naturally from the narrative, and the risk is potentially stripping them of their complexity and impact.
So it's about the feeling, isn't it? The feeling of a character's identity being truly integrated versus feeling like it's been added on for some specific purpose.
Yeah, the authenticity of it.
And our source implies this kind of engineering can actually undermine the very depth of the world being created.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's almost as if some in the industry started believing that a world without sin, or perhaps more broadly, a world without complexity, struggle, or inherent narrative challenges could exist within games.
Like trying to smooth out all the rough edges.
Maybe. But as that profound quote from Final Fantasy X reminds us, a world without sin can exist.
Powerful quote.
Real stories, truly compelling characters, genuinely immersive worlds. They embrace complexity, they acknowledge flaws, they depict the multifaceted nature of identity and existence. Simplifying them into these modular insertions, the source implies, strips them of that very essence.
Makes them less believable.
Less believable, less impactful for the player who's seeking that deep immersion. It risks reducing a character to just a category.
And this shift, our source contends, has had profound implications for player freedom, too.
How so?
Leading to instances where player choice within games can feel not just curtailed, but maybe even subtly judged or constrained by external expectations.
Ah, okay, so it affects gameplay directly.
It's no longer purely about exploration, the argument goes, but about navigating a set of unwritten sort of ideological rules.
Right, and a prime example cited in the source is Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay, highly anticipated game, lots of customization options.
Exactly. But in that game, choosing both a male body type and a male voice simultaneously could, apparently, trigger the wrong gender label within the game's system.
Really? So the system overrides the player's combination?
Seemingly, yeah. This highlights an arbitrary constraint, a system that, despite offering this wide array of customization, still imposed a specific interpretation of gender.
Which feels limiting.
It limited the player's natural choices, and in the source's view, made them feel almost as if they had made an error for simply combining elements that should, in a truly free and unjudged system, be perfectly valid.
It's an instance where the game's internal logic felt kind of at odds with the promise of player agency.
That's the argument, yeah.
And this extends beyond just character creation, right? Our source also points to situations where player actions and choices within a game are evaluated differently.
Evaluated how?
Not just by the game's internal narrative consequences, but by an external perceived moral compass.
Ah, okay. This raises an important question, particularly when we look at a game that was widely praised, like Baldur's Gate 3.
Huge game. Lots of choices.
Immense choices. But the source notes that players found themselves, and this is quoting, praised, others scolded not for their tactics, but for their choices of romance and dialogue.
Scolded. By whom? Other players. The game.
It seems to imply a mix, maybe social pressure from the community, maybe even subtle cues in the game's design itself. Imagine playing this vast RPG, making choices based on your character's personality or just your own preferences.
Yeah, exploring different paths.
Only to find yourself facing social pressure or this implicit judgment. That's a stark departure from the idea of gaming as a space of pure freedom and personal exploration.
It really is. It changes the dynamic.
And the source then asks this crucial question that really encapsulates the concern. Why does it matter whom I kiss in a game?
Good question.
Unless the game is no longer mine. Unless I am no longer free to explore but expected to conform to a progressive map someone else drew.
Wow. That's a heavy statement. A progressive map someone else drew.
It's a perspective arguing that this kind of dynamic transforms the player's personal journey into a sort of test with correct and incorrect answers based on these external ideological maps rather than internal narrative logic or just genuine personal preference.
It feels like a subtle kind of moral gatekeeping.
That's the implication, within a space that traditionally celebrated diverse choices.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, as you engage with these digital worlds? Is your exploration within these immersive spaces becoming limited, maybe subtly influenced by external expectations?
Are you being guided or even judged?
Yeah, judged through your choices within a realm that was once defined by pure, unadulterated freedom. It seems the very nature of interaction, that implicit contract between player and game, might be undergoing a significant and perhaps, as the source suggests, troubling transformation.
Where play isn't just play anymore.
But maybe a performance.
Inclusion's dark side. The major missteps in modern gaming.
Okay, let's unpack this even further. Our source material doesn't just talk about a general shift. It actually dives into some pretty explicit examples of what it calls ideological overreach and performative pressure within the gaming industry.
Getting specific now.
Yeah. It suggests that while genuine progress towards inclusivity is, a laudable goal,
of course,
it has sometimes been overshadowed by this seemingly performative need to appear inclusive. And often, ironically, maybe to the detriment of the game itself and that immersive experience we keep talking about.
Right, the appearance versus the substance. And what's fascinating here is the case study of Aloy in Horizon Forbidden West.
Okay, Aloy. Great character in the first game.
Exactly. The source describes her in the original game as being this powerful, grounded character with authentic presence. Her strength, her independence, it felt earned, integral to her being.
Yeah, you believed it.
However, in Forbidden West, according to this analysis, she allegedly became more of a mouthpiece for overt inclusivity themes.
A mouthpiece? How so?
Well, this apparently manifested in various ways, including what the source describes as rainbow quests, gender-coded dialogues, and awkwardly written romances. The key critique from the source is how the subtlety and the organic character development, which made her so compelling initially, were perceived to be just gone.
Replaced by something else.
Instead, quote, the message shouted. It goes on to assert that lore was replaced by lecture, character by campaign.
Lore replaced by lecture.
Oof. This suggests that the narrative integrity and the character's organic development were potentially compromised in favor of delivering a specific message, making the character feel less like an individual and maybe more like a symbol.
And it's not just about how characters are developed within the game, is it? But also how their identities are revealed or handled outside of it.
That's another critical point, the impact of external messaging on the perception of in-game representation.
Right.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, consider Overwatch 2's handling of Soldier 76's sexuality.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
After years of this rich backstory and player engagement, his being gay was announced not through some in-game narrative beat or subtle character moments,
But how?
but via a Twitter post.
Oh, right. A tweet.
The source frames this as a marketing moment, a quota, rather than a genuine story beat that evolved organically from the character.
It felt sudden, maybe.
It lacked arc or story, and to this perspective felt not human, but more like a checklist item. This highlights a potential trend where representation becomes more of a PR exercise, a way to gain social points, rather than an integral, deeply woven part of the character's soul.
Which ultimately diminishes its impact.
Diminishes its impact and authenticity for players who really value that narrative depth. It's about being told a character is something, rather than feeling it through their story.
This leads us to another critical point raised in our source. Instances where the message, the intended message, seemingly took precedence over the core gameplay experience itself.
The game's suffering for the message.
Yeah. When a game sacrifices its craft, its narrative coherence, its mechanical polish, its immersive qualities, for its perceived virtue signaling, the source argues that the entire experience can kind of crumble.
And Tell Me Why, developed by Dontnod, serves as a key example here in the source material.
Okay, Dontnod, they did Life is Strange.
Right. And while the lead character in Tell Me Why being trans is presented as potentially important and groundbreaking,
Which it could be.
Absolutely. But the source argues that the game became about the identity, not the experience.
What does that mean in practice?
It apparently had tangible consequences on the gameplay itself. Dialogues, the source claims, felt stiff, and choices were superficial.
Less engaging.
The primary objective, it seemed from this perspective, was to convey the message, we're inclusive, but in doing so, the argument goes, the game forgot to be immersive.
So the craft suffered.
The craft, the actual experience of playing the game, suffered because the message came first, resulting in a potentially less compelling and less engaging title overall. This suggests a fundamental misprioritization, perhaps, in game development.
Where the desired social message overshadowed the core artistic and interactive quality.
That's the concern raised, yeah.
And this prioritization of message over immersion, it extends right to the very beginning of the gaming experience for many players today, doesn't it?
How so?
Our source highlights this growing trend in many AAA titles, where you're immediately prompted to pick your pronouns.
Right at the start.
Before you've even seen your character's face, sometimes. Before you've had a chance to inhabit the world or understand its conventions, it's an immediate signal, setting a tone, and sometimes an expectation, before the actual gameplay even begins.
Pulling you back into the real world.
Immediately pulling the player into a real-world social construct, rather than the fantasy they're trying to enter.
And Starfield is mentioned as an interesting case in point here.
Okay, the big space RPG.
While it offered multiple gender options, but limited voice, background, and depth, the source calls this a shiny illusion of choice.
An illusion of choice.
Meaning, you have options, yes, but they often don't necessarily translate into meaningful narrative impact or unique gameplay mechanics or truly distinctive character experiences down the line.
So the initial choice doesn't ripple outwards much.
The character creator, while appearing robust, offered maybe a surface-level customization without the corresponding depth that would make those choices feel truly impactful within the vastness of the game's universe. It was an initial promise that, for some players, felt kind of unfulfilled in actual play.
And then there's The Sims 4. What does the source say about that?
Well, features like male pregnancy and gender toggles were added, not, as the source points out, primarily for gameplay innovation or to serve some evolving internal narrative logic, but explicitly because, quote, Twitter demanded it.
External pressure again.
There was no internal logic or narrative explanation offered for these additions within the game's existing framework, according to the source. This raises an important question posed in the material. When everything is possible, nothing feels meaningful.
That's a provocative thought. If there are no rules.
When the established rules and logic of a fictional world are broken or bent solely due to external pressures, the very sense of meaning, consequence, and immersion within that world can dissipate. If a feature exists only because a vocal group demanded it, does it truly enhance the game for the majority, Or does it serve a different purpose? That's the question being asked.
This brings us to an even, well, darker trend our source outlines, what it calls guilt-based design and forced morality.
Guilt-based design? What's that?
It's where the game, or perhaps more subtly, the community around it, seems to be actively watching and judging your choices.
Judging them how?
Not for their strategic value, but for their perceived moral or political alignment.
Ah, okay, like you're being tested on your views.
Exactly. In Life is Strange, True Colors, for example, the source notes that some choices feel subtly judged, as if the game itself is watching your politics.
How would that feel as a player?
This isn't about natural narrative consequences for making a bad choice in terms of the plot. It's about an implied judgment on the player's moral or ideological stance, almost steering them towards a particular correct path.
Which could feel incredibly alienating.
Especially for players who just want to explore different roles or make choices freely without feeling like they're about to get a moral evaluation.
And this extends beyond the game's mechanics, right, into the wider community.
Yeah, the source highlights anecdotal community examples, apparently from Baldur's Gate 3 forums.
What happened there?
Players who, say, skip same-sex romances are labeled as heteronormative or non-ally.
Whoa! Labeled for romance choices.
This goes beyond just friendly banter. It represents a form of social policing within a community that was maybe once defined by shared passion for a game, not by adherence to specific social ideologies.
That's a major shift.
Which leads to this crucial and quite striking observation from the source. Gaming used to be freedom. Now it's moral checkpointing.
Moral checkpointing, that really paints a picture.
This shift fundamentally alters the nature of the interactive experience, doesn't it? Moving it from a space of uninhibited exploration to one where players might feel the need to self-censor or conform just to avoid backlash.
Yeah, that feeling of being watched.
And the worst part of all this, as our source material concludes in this section, is when the marketing campaigns start to prioritize this messaging, this performative inclusion over the game's actual quality.
Marketing first, game second.
When the hype is primarily about the virtue a game embodies, rather than its innovative gameplay or compelling narrative, the magic it suggests is often lost before the game is even out.
And Forspoken is presented as the prime illustration of this phenomenon.
Right, I remember the marketing push for that one.
It was heavily marketed, the source notes, as a game featuring a strong black female lead, which is great on paper. However, despite this front and center messaging, the game itself, upon release, apparently suffered from weak dialogue, flat pacing, and a hollow world.
So the execution didn't live up to the marketing message.
That's the assertion. The source states, the message was front and center. The magic was gone. It's not that the game was inherently bad because of its lead character's identity. It's that the overwhelming focus on the messaging maybe overshadowed the fundamental quality and immersive experience players look for.
It set up expectations the gameplay couldn't meet.
Potentially, yeah. These games, the source clarifies, aren't inherently bad or failures simply because they include diverse characters or themes. That's not the point being made.
What is the point then?
The crucial point here is that, quote, the marketing screams so loud you can't hear the story anymore.
The noise drowns out the substance.
The external messaging, the performative inclusion, it becomes so deafening, so pervasive, that it drowns out the very artistic and narrative essence of the game. It becomes about the checkboxes, the public-facing statements, not the soul of the experience. This perspective argues that true inclusivity should enhance the narrative, not overshadow it.
The gamer's true plea. Just let me play.
So, okay, after exploring all these troubling trends and specific examples laid out in the source material, it feels really crucial to address a common counter-narrative.
Which is?
The idea that gamers who criticize these developments are simply bigots or just resistant to progress.
Yeah, that label gets thrown around.
Our source material strongly refutes this. It emphasizes a fundamental truth it observes. Most gamers are not bigots.
Okay.
They just want to breathe. They want choice. Real choice, not curated virtue.
Real choice, not curated virtue. What's the distinction there?
This perspective argues that the core desire isn't about resisting change or genuine representation itself. It's about desiring authenticity and the freedom to play without these ideological burdens.
Okay, so what does real choice mean in this context, according to the source?
It means, for example, a trans character exists because the story called for it, not because a PR team needed it.
The organic versus engineered point again.
Exactly. This distinction is critical for our source. It's about representation emerging organically from compelling narrative, where a character's identity feels integral to their being and their journey,
Part of their soul, maybe.
rather than being inserted as some superficial tick box exercise for external validation or, marketing purposes. It's the difference between a character being defined by their identity and their identity being an enriching aspect of a fully realized character.
Right. And the source actually offers powerful examples of genuinely felt queerness from games that resonated deeply, precisely because they weren't forced or announced externally like a press release.
Oh, yeah. Which ones?
It highlights characters like Kate in Fallout 4
Okay, yeah. Complex character.
and Judy in Cyberpunk. Especially that poignant moment with Judy, quote, "When the noise fades and the water rises."
Oh, right. That scene. Very impactful.
These are moments where the identity feels deeply human, integrated naturally into the character's story and emotional arc. They're felt, experienced as part of the narrative, and they contribute to the character's depth, rather than simply being observed as a demographic detail.
It's about the emotional resonance, isn't it? Not just the label.
That's the argument. And this raises an important question. What truly makes a character compelling and memorable in the long run?
Good question. What does the source suggest?
Well, it brings up that timeless quote from Castlevania, Symphony of the Night.
Oh, this should be good.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets.
Classic. But profound.
It is profound. It suggests that characters are most compelling, most resonant, when they embody complexity, mystery, internal contradictions. They aren't simplified for a checkbox.
They're allowed to be messy.
Allowed to be full, flawed, intricate beings whose identities unfold naturally within the narrative. This complexity, the sense of having secrets and internal struggles, is what allows players to genuinely connect and empathize, rather than just categorize or check a box.
It's about the journey of discovery with that character.
Not simply the arrival at some predetermined identity label.
This brings us full circle, doesn't it? Back to that core desire expressed in the poetic knocklong section of our source.
The final part, yeah.
Let me play. Not because I hate change, but because I love silence. Because in silence, I heal.
That really hits home, that line.
It's such a profound yearning for the gaming space to return to its roots, as a sanctuary, a place of peace, restoration, unburdened immersion. It's a plea for the experience of play to be allowed to just be.
Without all the external agendas layered on top.
Yeah.
It's a longing to wander without ideology, as the source puts it. To experience games like Skyrim, where the snow doesn't ask my pronouns. Where the world just exists without imposing external expectations or ideological frameworks on the player.
Just letting you exist within it.
It's about the freedom to simply feel emotions for beloved characters like Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, or to make choices that resonate, like those involving Liara from Mass Effect.
Without worrying about judgment.
Without the constant gnawing scrutiny or judgment from outside forces. This reclaims that emotional and personal connection to the game, allowing players to lose themselves in the narrative rather than constantly being reminded of real-world debates.
It's about letting the world be and letting the player be within it.
Exactly.
And it's about the simple, almost childlike joy of being able to ride a chocobo without checking its gender.
Huh. Yeah, that's a great image.
It's such a clear metaphorical plea, isn't it? For wanting to engage with the fantastical, imaginative elements of a game without being constantly pulled back into real-world identity politics or social categorizations.
Just let the fantasy be fantasy.
It's the desire to disappear just long enough to return with breath. Gaming, at its best, is presented here as this personal, restorative space.
A refuge.
A temporary refuge that allows you to reset, maybe find a sense of self outside of daily pressures, and then return to your own life refreshed and perhaps more centered. It's about the profound value of that unburdened escapism.
And ultimately, the source concludes this whole section with this powerful, almost desperate wish.
What is it?
To be just a gamer. Just a soul with a controller and a dream to disappear.
Wow. Not a label, not a symbol.
Not a symbol to be leveraged, not a target for criticism, not an ally to be recruited, and certainly not a threat to be managed. Just a person.
Just a person engaging with a digital world for the pure joy and healing it can provide.
It's a fundamental plea for recognition of the gamer's intrinsic desire for immersion, freedom, and escape, unburdened by the weight of external agendas. This perspective argues that true respect for the player means allowing them this space. Outro.
So we've journeyed through this really evolving landscape of gaming in this deep dive, guided by some truly insightful source
A
material.
lot to unpack there.
Definitely. We've seen how the world of gaming, once cherished as this space of pure wonder and personal escape, has, at least in the view of our sources, become increasingly burdened by external ideological pressures and performative inclusion.
That core tension really came through.
The tension between authentic, emergent experience and that more engineered messaging. Our source contends it's now more apparent than ever.
And this resonates perfectly with the final thought from our source material. We don't need games that reduce people to checkboxes.
Right.
We don't need stories that feel like corporate slideshows.
It's such a clear call for substance over superficiality, isn't it? For genuine narrative over just marketing bullet points. A plea for artistic integrity.
Absolutely.
What gaming truly needs, and once provided, our source argues, is wonder, risk, resonance.
Wonder, risk, resonance. I like that.
It's the magic of discovery, the thrill of genuine challenge, and that profound emotional connection that makes these experiences so memorable and deeply personal. The plea at the heart of this entire discussion is simple yet profound. Don't tell me what to feel.
Yeah.
Let me feel it. It's a call for player agency in emotional and intellectual response, not just in, pressing buttons.
And if representation comes, the source offers this really powerful vision for its future.
How should it come?
It should come quietly.
Quietly.
Like Ellie, like Liara, like Varric, like Vivi. It should manifest not as some forced addition, not as a sticker, but as a soul.
As a soul. That's beautiful.
It's a vision of organic integration that celebrates complexity, narrative depth, and authentic character development, allowing identities to breathe naturally within the story rather than feeling like these imposed external elements.
It's about letting characters simply be in all their multifaceted glory.
And letting players discover that depth for themselves.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we invite you, the listener, to consider what gaming truly means to you. Is it still that space for quiet escape and profound, unburdened connection?
Or do you, perhaps, like the perspective explored in our source material, feel the weight of external expectations maybe encroaching upon that fundamental freedom to just play?
Has this exploration resonated with your own experiences of finding simple, unburdened joy and authentic connection in digital worlds?
Lots to think about.
We hope this deep dive has offered some new insights and maybe some questions for you to mull over long after the credits roll on your next adventure.